What's going on, everybody? You are listening to the Co-Living Show. My name is Craig Curelop,
Miller McSwain.
and we've got a solo dolo episode for you today. Well, I guess is it considered solo, Miller, if it's me and you?
Well, you said Dolo. I was thinking that meant double solo. So
Solo dolo. I feel like those are a Kid Cudi song. Did you ever listen to Kid Cudi, or are you too young
no,
for that?
no, no, no,
No, too.
no. I'm a heavy metal fan. If anyone goes back and listens to our episode with Clara, they'll know that we both like Metallica. So
Oh, I mean, Metallica's good too, but Kid Cudi was it for a couple of years there. Anyway, so yeah, this is just me and Miller episode, guys. And we kind of came together and we wanted to, we've kind of finally turned the ship around and we kind of want to describe how we went from basically a 50% occupancy to a 90% occupancy in just a few months. So, for those of you guys that are just following along on the journey, me and Miller have not always been partners in this co-living space. I was in an endeavor beforehand where I had me as in Craig, we had a co-living management company and we probably managed about 20 to 30 houses. And it was going mediocre at best, we'll call it. Like we had the houses, some of them were filled, some of them were not. Some people were happy, most were not. But like I knew beneath the surface level, that there were massive holes, massive gaps, and I was just not the guy to get there. And so I met Miller as a big operator guy. And then Miller, what did your portfolio look like at the time?
yeah, so we had built our whole portfolio in Colorado Springs, like an hour and a half south of where Craig was, and we had built it up to 7 properties at that point. And I think it was totally different than Craig's portfolio. Yes, they were both co-living, and yes, I was in a different city. But also, every property that I owned them. So there was like no third party management. It was like me and partners, which I thought would be the same as me, and then having like third party owners turns out is like a little bit different. But yeah, so that's where my portfolio was: 7 houses, around like 50 rooms that we built like very slowly. We built our portfolio slow and steady, and kind of like built our systems along the way. Like I wasn't being super risky about it and like buying a bunch of houses at one time and being like, I hope it works out. It was definitely built much slower. And so I think I kind of had this good foundation set and had experience that I proven and written the book and like that kind of stuff. And then met Craig, who had this much bigger portfolio that is similar and was just a little bit geographically away. But yeah, and then we started chatting.
Yeah. And so what we found here as we started chatting, as we were talking, is basically the like, man, I hate operating these things. I don't like operating co-living like at all. And like I just wanted the places totally full and no one to ever leave, right? Which is not realistic at all for co-living. Miller had the opposite problem, right? Where what was your problem, Miller?
Yeah, and in fact, like when Craig and I first met on Zoom to talk more officially about this, Craig asked me if I wanted to scale. Like, how badly do I want to scale? Do I want to scale? And I said no. I was like, no, I don't want to scale. And I think that was my blanket answer. But then as we kept talking, it got a little bit more nuanced and we figured things out. I did not want to scale acquisitions. I had found that I was good at the operations, the marketing, getting the people in the room, getting the system set up, hiring people. I had hired a couple people so far at that point to help me run it. So I had that piece figured out. But my goal that year was to buy, I think six houses. And looking back 12 months, and I'd only bought one. So that was my gap. I would spend all my time working on the ops because like that's what was fun. That's what was on my task list. That was exciting. But I wasn't spending the time analyzing, looking at markets. And that's the part that I did not want to scale and did not enjoy.
Right. And so that was the part that I actually do like. And I like doing the real estate investing side. I like buying the deal and negotiating it and getting it done. And I'd like to scale that. And that's why I had brought on 20 something houses, 30 houses. I did not own all of those, by the way, but I did analyze all of them and made sure they worked for our numbers. And that's why Miller had grown not as fast because it's just not what he liked to do. And so we saw those two things as, oh, wow, imagine if we put what you love to do and I love to do together. And I never had to think about operations outside of just some brainstorming. And Miller never had to worry about an acquisition except outside of some brainstorming. And we could basically make this thing that could scale and grow and make a real difference in the world. And so that's how the partnership was formed. And maybe I told Miller this and maybe I didn't. I probably didn't tell you how fallen apart the portfolio was before we actually signed papers.
So I did know. But yeah, honestly, I think so. So Craig and I sat down for a few days and laid out the data and looked at plots and lease agreements and like how we each run the business. and we're just trying to figure out how this thing might mesh together. And I do think I was naive in hindsight. Like I'd seen the data for the portfolio. I knew it was around like 50% occupied. But really, I just saw all the systems on Craig's side that were not fully fleshed out, that were like potentially broken and all that. And I was like, oh, great. I'll be able to come in, turn my systems on, and we'll be just fine. But anyway, it did turn out to be a little bit more of a nut to crack than that. I was like, oh, I'll be getting cash flow, distributions, whatever, in 2 months. And anyway, it took a little bit longer for us to get everything spooled up. But I was aware and I said yes. Maybe I should ask for a salary also, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. There's more, there's bigger things to come, I think. I
Oh, yeah.
hope. And so basically, we want to take you, like, just kind of give you background for those that are just joining us now. But just to paint the picture, we kind of officially signed papers and everything. It was like probably end of November ish. And we're going to,
And just to hop in on that for a sec, I think you and
yeah.
I did it very smart, or I think we were very cautious in an important way. We didn't totally merge everything ASAP. We did go through like a dating period where I had my company, you had your company, and we had some contract, like contractor agreement, basically in place between the two.
Mhm.
And so I ran the show underneath Craig's umbrella, like for a little while, and then I think we officially solidified a couple months after that, like when we saw things were trending how we wanted, and
Yeah.
we saw that we could solve problems together and we could communicate well. Like we went through the dating before we signed marriage paperwork, basically.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. And one thing that we did too was, like, Miller came up to Idaho and we spent like probably 3 days together. And there was probably a day and a half that was like all business. We were in a room with whiteboards and charting stuff out and like coming up with a plan, which was good. Like we need to know how to work together. But there was also probably half of that time was also just like personal, getting to know each other. And so I think, like, when you are looking to get into a real partnership where you're going to be working together, like, you've got to like the person as a person. Otherwise, you're just going to be miserable, and you got to know what drives them and what matters to them. And like, Miller met my wife, I met Miller's wife. That's all like real important stuff when you're thinking about partners. And so we signed that paperwork, let's call it like end of November 2025. And it was pretty much off the ground running. And I loved, and the first thing that we did, basically, funny enough, is we were switching, if you remember, Miller, we were switching like property management systems. So that
Yeah.
was like the first big thing.
This is like terrible timing for many reasons. First off, it was November, which is the winter, worst time to lease a property up. So the first part of our partnerships, November, December, January, February, worst timing ever. Also, Craig was switching management systems. Literally, my first day I came in and I'm having like all these meetings with the new management, the management software we use is called Rentvine. It's kind of like Appfolio and Buildium. It's for bigger portfolios. And I'm getting thrown in to that. And they're like, oh, hey, all this data didn't come over correctly. I'm like, I don't even have access to this old stuff. And some of Craig's old stuff is shut down and we can't even get to it. That was happening. And then on my side, we were transitioning systems too. We were moving all of our marketing and a lot of our data and all that kind of stuff was in Podio, which is more of like an outdated system at this point. It was like huge for wholesalers probably 5 years ago. And that's when I hopped on board there. But then we switched it over to Go High Level at this time too. So I think that was the big, like I said, I was naive. I thought I could come in and turn my systems on. I thought I was going to have my systems ready. But on day one, I didn't even have my systems ready because we were mid transition too. And even to this day, we're still building out our Go High Level to replace all the functionality that was in Podio. So it was like a lot of change all at one time, plus a lot of stress.
Yeah, plus the seasonality and all that. But there's never a good time to do this stuff, guys. If you're going to make a big change, it's like having a baby. A lot of people want babies, but it's never really convenient, right? And it's the same thing with a partnership. It's never going to be convenient because if we did it in the summer, we'd be dealing through all this stuff. It's almost better that we did it in the winter when it was less busy and it wasn't leasing season. And so, yeah, so that was kind of like the beginning, was like sorting through all of the CRM stuff and the property management software and all that kind of stuff. And then just to kind of give you an idea of what my portfolio looked like at the time. So I can't remember exactly how many houses it was, probably 25 or so. We were probably at about 50 or 60% occupancy. And people were not happy. We'll just say that. The owners, of course, weren't happy because we weren't filling the rooms fast enough. The residents weren't very happy because the places were disorderly. I think the way that we operated things, again, was just a little sloppy, messy, and inconsistent, which really it caused them to not, like, the residents to not have trust in us. And then who else is there? Yeah, basically no one was like super
Oh,
happy.
some vendors like were worried about like they hadn't been paid when they thought they were going to.
Yeah, yep, exactly. So some vendors maybe weren't paid. And so basically, like, all of the operational side of the business was a little bit in shambles, and that's mainly because I'm not an operations person. Like I can't, I don't think like that, and it shows. Like we definitely built that. I learned a lot in the process for sure. But so basically, I presented Miller with this like big tangled clump of elastics and hair, and was like, "Here you go, figure this out."
But it
Solve
smelled
the
like
problem.
money to me. So
Yeah, but it smelled green and fresh and
yeah.
right out of
Facade.
DC. Yeah. So that's what was it. So that's basically, yeah, like I had a problem, Miller had a solution, and
And
there.
I had a problem, by the way, and Craig had a solution too. So totally two-sided, like we were talking about with the acquisitions. So
Yeah, yep. I think Miller didn't realize he had a problem because his stuff was pretty
mhm.
smooth. And so then we came together, of course, and built this thing up. And guys, as you're listening to this, what we did here is this is our first co-living portfolio takeover. And if you want to talk about scale, you can keep buying these houses one at a time, two at a time, three at a time. That's not really scale. A scale would be how do you get a portfolio of 20 houses and get them onto your systems and up to speed and up to snuff and do that in a few months. It's the same acquiring 20 houses in 3 months is basically what we did rather than if we had to acquire 20 individual houses in that way, it would take a lot longer. And this is like the story we're going to tell. So Miller, what was like the first step when we presented you with these 20 houses?
Yeah, there was a lot of things that we did at first. We threw a webinar and talked to owners, letting them know about the state of things and what we were interested in doing soon, what all of our plans were, moving systems over, all that kind of stuff. But I think the biggest thing that we did in the beginning that was like a huge lift, and this isn't even something that I thought about so much when Craig and I were talking about partnering. There's little pieces you may not think about that might actually be big pieces, but setting up the properties. So historically in Colorado Springs, my wife and I would set up our properties. I think out of our first 7 properties, we probably did 100% of the first 5 or 6 of those. So we were going through, picking out the couch at the store, putting it in there, ordering the stuff online, unpacking it, putting the door locks on, doing all that kind of stuff. And along the way, I was totally documenting what we were doing. Even today, when we set up a house, we send this Asana project to the person who's setting it up, and they can see the checklist and everything that's in there. And there's still video guides in there of me. There's somewhere I'm not even wearing shoes. I'm just recording my phone, walking up to the front door, and you can see the reflection in the glass. I'm not wearing shoes, like installing this lock and telling our handyman like how to install them. So I kind of documented how we were going to do all of this, but we'd only really had one rep with it. I think our 7th property in Colorado Springs, I actually handed that list off to someone to just, hey, follow my instructions and go set everything up. And it worked pretty well. But so now I was taking that one success story and applying it to 20, 25 houses in Denver that were partially set up. So I'd never done that either. I was like, oh, I'm used to coming into a house that has 0 setup. So now we kind of have to deal with that too. Like, oh, we had to get someone to go into every single house, inventory what's currently there. Do they have pots? Do they have pans? What sort of locks do they have? They had different locks than we use in our portfolio with our systems. So I think the first thing was kind of an inventory of how each house was set up. So then we could determine what do we need to do out of my extensive checklist? What of it's still relevant and what of it is actually already completed? So that was step one.
Yep. So step one is get all the houses onto your systems. You can't have houses on different systems. I believe it or not had that, tried it. I was trying to be like, because I'm probably more of the high I in the disc where it's like I like to be liked. And so if an owner's like, oh, I already got this type of lock and it works just fine, there's Wi-Fi. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's fine. We can have a Eufy on one and a Yale on the other. It's just another login app. But no, you can't. It's all got to be on one system. You've got to be strict about it, and they've got to pay for it. And so I
Yeah.
was always afraid to ask for that. Oh, you got to invest to be with us, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was definitely the bad guy coming into a lot of this, I think, with the tenants, with the owners, with some vendors. Some of these houses that were in the portfolio had just been set up with whatever brand and system of locks or whatever else is at the property. I had to come in and talk to owners and be like, hey, I know that your occupancy isn't great right now. I know that you're not cash flowing right now, or potentially, but we do need to spend an extra, depending on the house, $1,000, an extra $2,000, because we do need to get different locks. I'm not willing to manage your property if it's going to have different locks because we're not set up to do that. There's just going to be more errors. We're going to miss setting a code because it's not automatic like we're used to. So we had to come in and kind of, since we've talked about this like strong arm approach, and maybe there's some of it that needs to be rolled back, but we strong armed the owner piece of it, I think. And that actually went over pretty well. I think that they were understanding. They were excited for me to come in and they were looking forward to what was going to happen. But we also took the strong arm approach with the tenants too. So the tenants were, whenever I came in, they were pretty used to things being loosey goosey. There were some tenants who were on payment plans. I'm like, wow, I've never offered a payment plan to someone who's late on rent because it's $700. Like, if and in a lot of situations, as long as you manage your money correctly, that should be something that could be taken care of. Some people were on payment plans. Some people had pets. Some people didn't. I had to come in there and be like, hey, all of this stuff is stopping going forward. Your cabinets are now labeled going forward. I know you used to take up 5 spaces in the fridge because those other 2 rooms were vacant and you just got to do it, or because no one else in the house said that you can't do that. All right, now you're limited back to the normal amount so that everyone shares equally. And so there was a lot of that coming in just so that we could align everything, smooth it out, and get it to run through our systems without hitting a bunch of issues that we would have to solve on a one-off basis. And there was a lot of that in the beginning. It's like, oh, this guy has this issue, and it's just some one-off. We were solving one-offs all the time because everything was set up differently, basically.
Yeah, there's a whole thing called change management. And so you really need to know how to communicate and handle change well when you're coming in and taking over a whole portfolio. Like Miller said, the first thing that we did was talk to all the owners. And the first thing, the first part of that webinar with 15 or 20 owners on that call was me apologizing. And it was, hey, I'm sorry. I failed you guys. I did not like, I had done this with a few of my houses and it worked at scale. It all blew up and that's my fault. You trusted in me and I'm sorry. And so that was like the first part of the call. And that's like a hard thing for me to do. These are all people that I love and that I let down. And that hurts. It just hurt that I let them down. And then, of course, honestly, admitting it actually felt good. But, and like just so they knew that wasn't like I wasn't trying to like yank them around. And then the second part of that call was like, and Miller's here to save the day. And this is why Miller's on board. Like we've got all these systems. This is what we're going to implement. This is what he has, yada, yada, yada. And so now the owners knew exactly what we were going to do. And most of them, if not all of them, were okay with the extra $2,000 setup because I think of the way that we pitched it in that way. We did not show the residents the same amount of respect, which I wonder if we did that and had a, although they probably wouldn't all show up to a webinar or something, but if we at least had one and was like, hey, if I admitted this, if we just did that same layout where I admitted that we failed them and Miller's going to come in and this is the new thing that's going to happen, that might have gone on a little bit easier, but who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. I think we came in with the residents, and I think we sent one email telling them, hey, we're the new management. Here's the new phone number you should contact. And I think we laid out some benefits that we were going to bring. Hey, now we're doing shared supplies. Hey, whatever, lawn care and cleanings and like all this kind of stuff. But I think we weren't upfront about some of the other changes, and like they were kind of shocked because by default, I'm kind of like a people pleaser for sure. And in hindsight, though, if you do bring issues up or things that are changing that they should be concerned about, you bring them up sooner, there's much less backlash on the end. And we did have, so for example, we did not mention that we were bringing cameras in, like cameras to the shared spaces, because I know that's a touchy point. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just not going to bring it up. And, whatever, it just might go over smoothly. Well, anyway, we put them in and there was like loads of backlash. And so, hindsight, we're actually now we're taking over another property right now that's already set up as co-living. This is just one. It's not like I'm taking over 20 properties, but we're trying to be a little bit smarter with this one. And we found some things we messed up on that we still need to improve. But some things that we're doing now, we're sending more than one email and more than one text. It's over 10 days every day. Hey, don't forget, we're the new management. Here's this new thing you can look forward to. Also, don't forget, this is a change you may not be used to. Don't be shocked, blah, blah, blah. We're including a video in there that we're recording now of me just, hey, I'm the new manager. This is what's going forward. I'm the face to the name. And the thing we have not done yet, but Craig brought this up recently, and this is a big value add to the partnership that Craig can have these ideas and bring them up. But we already do these community events where we throw pizza night, bowling night, whatever. We should 100% do that during the transition. And if possible, someone from management should be there to answer questions, to help smooth the thing over. And it's like, oh, like, is that worth it? If you're the only manager, you're managing your portfolio and you're taking a house over, is it worth it for me to go over there and do all that? Yeah, I do think so. Because even if you save one tenant from leaving, that's $800 a month, and that room might sit vacant for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That's $800 you just left on the table. That's probably multiplied by two, or maybe it's 3 residents or 4 residents, because a lot of them are buddies. If they move out, they might take other people with them. We have not perfected smoothing it over with the tenants, but we are still improving and getting better every time.
Yep, but it's something that you need to think about and need to. I mean, you almost have to think like, if I was in the tenant's shoes, how would I want this to smooth over? Because you got to be liked. If you come in and just say, "Hey, we're laying down the law, and there's going to be cameras, and you got to put your stuff in," you just seem like the police, and it's not the approach to get people to want to stay in your home. It's you got to come in, have a pizza night. You're buying the pizza, come together, be bros with the people in there for a little bit, And I think that would go over much smoother. And so yeah, so we're still perfecting that, but just so you know, like that was a big hurdle, and we had a lot of people move out, and so in like I think you're not gonna avoid people moving out when you come in and transition, because at the end of the day, like it is something new. They signed up for one thing, you're now giving them another thing, and we let them leave. We didn't hold them to the lease or anything like that. Like we get it. Ultimately, we want people that want to subscribe to our rules in our houses. And so it's okay to let them go, because in the long term, it's going to be way better.
Yeah, Craig, I think that's a great point. So if we did require that everyone stayed there, all of a sudden there are going to be people locked into it that aren't going to break their lease and they're just going to keep paying their rent, which cool, great, you're getting more income and all that. But the house is no longer aligned. The house starts to be divided. The culture isn't great. Some people in the house hate management. Some people like it. It's going to be worse for the community overall. And you'll have people in there who are making things bad for everyone else. So yeah, our approach when we came in was, hey, we're the new management. And we did say this. Yeah, if you guys do want to leave, we will allow you to break your lease early, especially because we were making changes like cameras and things that they did not necessarily sign up for. And there were people in the houses who did have pets and we didn't want pets going forward. That kind of stuff were reasons that we allowed them to leave early. And overall, it sucked in the meantime because I think our occupancy probably went down below 50 in those early days or below 60 or whatever. But now here we are, however many months later, and the community is much healthier. We've refilled those spaces with new people coming in who know the new management rules, who went through the whole onboarding with us. And so now we're in a much better place because we took that hit early on and we're willing to do so.
100%. Yep. Okay. So at this point, like the systems are in the house, the owners have been notified, the residents have been notified. Many of the residents had left. And one of the things, again, one of the other big lessons that we learned, and I think out of this, is that when you're doing something that is obvious, that when it went off the surface, when you tell a tenant, it seems like it's a disadvantage to them, it's very important that you explain why. So, for example, we're adding cameras to the house. That seems like a violation of privacy to when you come at that. But when you say it like, "Hey, we're adding cameras to the house because we're treating this house just like a hotel or an apartment building, where the common areas are monitored mainly for your safety and the cleanliness of the home. We're not sitting here monitoring them. We're not going to be watching you. Like, only if something comes up do we have those checked for your safety." In that, now the cameras seem like a good guy instead of a bad guy. And so in any situation, when you're presenting that, you always need to describe why, and that goes a long way and it builds trust. That's something that we probably did not do, and that's why we lost a lot of people in the beginning. And so we alerted the owners. Not a ton of people left immediately, and then we alerted the residents. A lot of them left immediately. And so now we've got a pretty clean slate of houses that have our systems, that are cleaned up, like they're not messy anymore, and they're probably as empty as hopefully they'll ever be.
Yeah.
And so now we have the process of, now at least like it's cleaned up. Now we just got to kind of put it back together. Like the dirt is all gone, and now we're just putting the pieces back together. And so now we're talking about, okay, we were probably at below 50%. And now how do we get it back up to 90%? And so I just want to say that a big part of getting back to 90% was not having people come in and out real quick. Because if we didn't do that initial setup, people would be coming in and out real quick because the houses weren't messy. There were no systems. There was no, like all that kind of stuff. So all that stuff was 100% very crucial and necessary to do in the beginning. And now we can start getting more and more people in. So Miller, what was your first step to get more people in?
Yeah. So like Craig said, I think we did this in like a smart order of operations. So if you're considering something like this, really sit down and think about what steps these things go in. But yeah, now that we have the clean slate and we're ready to start building things back up, Craig and I sat down and started thinking about, all right, let's look at our data. And by this point, we did have some data too. So I guess that's important. We're, a couple months into this thing. And so we are now seeing, hey, how many people are messaging us on these platforms? How many of those are making it to the touring step? How many are making it to the lease signing? How many are moving in? We have info about that. We have info about how many people are leaving, all that kind of stuff. So we sit down and look at our data, and it took some hashing around. And like AI is incredibly helpful for this, by the way. You can throw out like large data sets and ask it to help you think through it. But the three issues we found were our top of funnel was an issue. So we weren't getting enough people messaging us or inquiring, or enough people weren't hearing our name and reaching out to us, basically. We weren't contacting enough people to sufficiently fill the rooms as quickly as we wanted. We weren't converting them. Not enough of those guys that talked to us were actually moving in. And once they did get in, like too many of them were leaving. So we distilled that down into those three issues, which then made it more actionable, more bite-sized, more, hey, we can sit down and look at this. We can come up with a few solutions for each of these, and we can actually start executing now. So the first issue was our top of funnel. So I kind of just want to go through each of these issues with you guys and talk about the solutions that we implemented. There's probably multiple ways to solve these. You guys might even have a better idea, in which case I wish I would have heard it. But these are the things that we did, and these things absolutely did work 100%. And this is how we saved the business basically and got it back to 90%. So our top of funnel issue, where not enough people are talking to us. First thing was I went through and audited the listing platforms that the properties were currently on. And I forget exactly which ones were missing, but there were a few that are missing. So our comprehensive list right now, like our must go tos, Zillow, Roomies, Facebook Marketplace, and apartments.com. So we got on all of those, and then even found that there were some issues like within certain platforms. So there's tips and tricks with every single one of these. But for example, on Zillow, the properties were listed, and I think this was actually intentional, if I remember right, Craig, but they were listed as like a whole house, like it was like a house rental listing. And then in the listing, it said, here's bedroom 1 that's open, here's bedroom 4 that's open, and bedroom 6 is open. Here's the pricing. Wasn't that intentional to list it that way, Craig?
Yeah, it was. I can't remember. I think it was so we didn't like. I think Zillow was having a problem with us doing it by the room. I don't know if they had the room service at that time.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I came in and they were listed that way. And honestly, I was like, hey, maybe this does work. I've only ever done it the room style, like listing it as a room. And those 3 rooms that are at a house, like they get 3 different listings in Zillow. That's how I'd always done it. So we actually did look at the data both ways. And the main issue that we found was if we're listed as a whole house, when people reach out, they're often thinking it is a whole house for $900, or they're thinking it's an apartment that's totally private for $900 or whatever. So there was a lot of like customer misalignment there. So we got that fixed, got everything onto the platforms and listed correctly. The other thing we did was we went through all the listing photos. So here was another thing. On my systems, we have listing photos for every house, obviously, but then we also have a YouTube tour, like a video like type tour. And some houses had photos, and videos, some had none. So we had to go through and audit all of that too. So this is kind of part of that initial setup. Which rooms don't we have any media for? Great, we got to go get all that. So that was a big effort. We had like even my social media manager, Isabel, who runs this podcast, she was helping us edit videos to get all these up. We had 2 or 3 employees like all working on this together to try to get 25 houses times like 5 rooms. It was like over 100 or like 150 videos that we had to edit and get put together. So we got all that done, got those into the listings. And I think the last thing we did here was a huge lever, and it was all about pricing. So I think the rooms were probably listed appropriately as far as that they were like market rents. But the thing that we weren't really considering at first is, hey, if we have all of these listed at market rents, it's going to take forever to get 100 rooms filled up or whatever it was. There was like 80 to 100 vacant rooms, I think, so something like that. So what we did was we dropped the price on every single room. And by the way, we did this with Co-Living Pro, which is my dynamic pricing software. You can go to colivingpro.io. But we used that. It calculated what should we put every room at if we want to fill up super duper quickly. So we ended up dropping the price across all rooms, and that was a huge lever too. So anyway, those things kind of added up to us going from having 50 people message us a week or something, I don't remember exactly, but to now having 160 or 180 or whatever we're getting right now. Hey guys, the tool I've been talking about forever, Co-Living Pro, is now officially live. So some of the biggest problems that I've encountered around co-living are always on the marketing side. So you can think of Co-Living Pro as a marketing software or a tool to help you overcome some of these marketing issues that we all run into in the co-living space. So number 1, it helps you determine what to price your room at and then how to change that price over time. And that's actually a free tool. You can go there to colivingpro.io, and there's a little like rentometer type tool where you can punch in an address, punch in a zip, punch in a city, and kind of see what rooms might rent for there. But it does that for you. And number 2, historically, for us to keep our rooms operating at full capacity, especially when we're off a pad split, it's meant that we had to post on Zillow, post on Zumper, post on Apartments, post on Roomies, post on all these places. And with just a 5 bedroom house, that's already 20 listings right there, which is a lot of work, a lot of time and effort. So Co-Living Pro helps you solve this. You just make your listing on this one site and it pushes it to Zillow, pushes it to Zumper, and we even support any platform with the manual listing manager. So you can still be on apartments, still be on Roomy, still be on Pad Split, still be on anything. And it's kind of a wizard that helps you stay organized, your VA stay organized. It shows you what rooms need to be posted where with just quick copy paste prompts. Copy your rent over, copy your description over, boom, you're good to go. And number three, historically, now that you're on all these sites, we always had to hop in daily or at least weekly to keep these listings up at the top, keep the pricing up to date. So Co-Living Pro solves that for you too. It's making those adjustments for you on a daily basis, even an hourly basis, to make sure your listings are updated across your platforms. So you guys know everything I've always done has been free. The community is free. This podcast is free. I'm super proud of that and definitely going to keep doing all that. But this tool is paid, but I feel comfortable doing that because the numbers are honestly pretty insane. So if you go to Co-Living Pro, there is a calculator where you can do this for your own situation. But let's take that example earlier of the 1 5-bedroom property. From that, we estimate you'll make an extra $1,400 a year in extra rent and reduced vacancy. And that is 5x what the tool costs. Let me say that again. This tool produces 5x the return of what it costs. So in this example, that's actually a better return than most co-living properties themselves, being around 15, 16%. So seriously, to me, this is a no-brainer. So head over to colivingpro.io. This is the tool that I built for my own business, and I'm so happy that I can finally share it with you guys. And back to the episode.
Love it. And so we got on all the platforms. There were all of the media and stuff was on the platform so that people would basically, one, they would see the house, two, they would like the house and the pricing on the house, and then therefore they would inquire. And that leads us to the next stage, which is the conversion.
Yep. Yeah. So now that people are talking to us, we wanted to make sure that as many of those people that talk to us, as many of them as we can, we actually want them to move in. So a few things that we did there. There was no automated messaging, or I don't think so, from what I remember. Yeah, there's no automated messaging in the previous management. Craig had some employees that were replying, but still there's more delay with that than there is when it's automated. So we got a lot of that automated. If you guys are interested, you can shoot me a DM. I have a guide on how you can automate Zillow replies, and apartments.com is another one that you can automate pretty easily, and Facebook actually. So Facebook Marketplace. So shoot me a DM and I can show you guys how I do that. But so we got those automations set up. And otherwise, we just did a ton of A/B testing. And this was something that was new to me. I was getting really excited. Like when Craig and I started talking about partnering, I was really excited about having more volume, like more data to play with, basically, because I had 7 houses in Colorado Springs and it was like 95% filled. So I had 3 rooms vacant or something like that. There wasn't a lot of tweaking I could do. If I go in and tweak, hey, let's put this like filter over all of our photos, or hey, let's change this wording in our description, or hey, let's change our reply to look like this. I didn't really have enough people I was able to test that on to know what was working well. So when Craig's, hey, I have 80 rooms to fill and it's 25 houses, that was super exciting as like a nerd guy. And Alex Hormozy was like releasing his most recent book at the time and all that. So like marketing was definitely like hyped up and A/B testing and all that. But we dove in, broke up our funnel into multiple steps. Like we always talk about, they message you, they reply, they fill out an application, maybe they tour, they pay their fees and they move in. Is like the main like steps of the funnel. So we're tracking every single one of those. All right, Craig, am I going too deep?
No, you're not going too deep. I was just kind of laughing a little bit because I remember looking at like your split tests prior, and there's like, because Miller was like itching to do split testing, right? But there's like a thing called statistical significance. And so like Miller would have 7 instances and 2 people clicked versus this other instance where he had 8 and 3 people clicked. And he's like, oh, the 3 to 8 must be better. And I'm like, dude, that is like, actually, no, there's no, like, there's a thing called statistical significance. And it basically what that means is like, you need to have a certain amount of iterations. And the more iterations you have, the more accurate that data, that percentage actually is. But usually, but there's some line and it just depends on the situation as to what that line is. But usually it's certainly in the tens or hundreds, if not thousands, before it can be considered statistically significant. And so that was a big part of what just so you guys know. And if you guys are doing split testing on your own and you're like, oh, one is 1 out of 3, the other is 2 out of 4, like that doesn't tell you anything.
Yep. Yeah, so, totally. I mean, there's a lot of benefits that come with scale, and this is one of them. You can start to test and you can start to play a little bit bigger that way. But the great thing about you guys listening to the show is we do have a lot of units and we did all this testing. So I can tell you guys about some of it. But okay, so we go through all of those steps. I guess some highlights there. we started testing on the listings. We started testing different like personalities, like different ways of saying the description. And AI is great for this too, because we had one base description that has the actual facts in there, right? This house is located at this address. It's close to this other thing. It's this big. This room has this much natural light. It has a walk-in closet, whatever. It has the base facts in there. But then we ran it through three different kind of versions. So we tell AI, hey, make it super personal. Hey, make it more professional, make it more whatever. And so we had like three different categories, ran it through, and then posted different versions around so we could start to track that. Different, like I said, different templated replies, different web pages that the lease is on, the page around the lease looks different colors. Like we went crazy with all of this. And so we went through all those steps, and maybe we have a standalone episode kind of about the results of those because I'd have to pull all the data. But a lot of those things added up, took us from, I think it was like a 1% conversion, which might sound terrible out there. We had to talk to 100 people to get one person to move in. And now it's, I think, 3%. So now we talk to those same 100 people, we get three to move in. Or you could say, we don't have to talk to 100 people to get someone to move in anymore. We talk to 33 and we get someone to move in. So anyway, huge improvement that we're stoked about.
Yep. And that's something that we're like constantly iterating on as well. And again, we're just trying to get that piece of the funnel as big as possible. The better you can convert, the cheaper it's going to be to your CAC, cost of customer, becomes cheaper. And then anything else on conversion, Miller?
I guess just to highlight, yeah, we are not done with our conversion tests, like Craig said. And the reason that we continue to do it is that first off, we haven't tried everything. There's definitely something out there that works better than what we do. But also it does change over time. So even though, boom, we feel like we hit like a good stride, we feel like the things that we're doing are converting well, who knows? 5 months from now, when everyone used the same AI that we did and everyone's listings look the same, great. I'm glad that we're still taking, I think we take 30% of our leads or so, and we're trying something new on those. So 70% is doing this baseline thing that we figured out that feels good. That other 30%, we are still testing so that we can update that baseline as we find things that are better since it changes over time.
Yep. And I think that's genius. And we will always do that, like Miller said, because we're never going to have made it. There's always going to be an iteration that's better.
Yeah. And even like it changes across the country. So if I told you guys something right now that works, you guys may have more furnished rooms that we do. And that sort of tenant might appeal to different benefits than we provide. So it even changes, like it changes based on everything. So that's kind of why you have to do your own testing, but you can be inspired by some of the testing we do at least.
Yeah, you can at least know what tests to run. Mm-hmm. Cool. And then, so we got top of funnel. That gets them in. Well, that gets them interested, I should say. The conversion gets them in. And then, I guess, is there anything else on conversion that you feel like we did well? I guess I want to talk about like tours or, leases signed or like,
yeah,
is
great.
the process smooth? Yeah.
Yeah, the tours was actually a big one. So thank you for bringing that up. That was the biggest thing I was unprepared for, I think. So like I just said, across states, things might be differently. Even across cities, like in the same state, like going from Colorado Springs to Denver was a much bigger change than I expected. I thought the demographics would be pretty similar. I thought they would behave similarly. A lot of the systems would work, but there were a few things that did not. And touring was one of those. So in Colorado Springs, and in fact, like if you read the Co-Living Cash Flow book, I talk about how great that this method works, but it didn't work everywhere, it turns out. So with touring, the way that I break it out, you could have an agent or someone on your team or you actually giving a tour, right? That's an option. You could be going to the house and giving the tours, or we could hire someone. You could have residents give the tour, which is what I did in Colorado Springs. I didn't want to be going to the houses. And so I thought that would be a pretty scalable way to do it. So anytime someone wants a tour, great. Jimmy's at the house and he'll meet you there, open the door, and he'll walk you around. Okay, that worked really well in Colorado Springs. I think there we have a lot of military. They're like pretty disciplined. They're pretty nice. They're pretty respectful, right? Like that kind of stuff. Whenever we started doing it in Denver, we saw that tours were like not converting very well. And I think it's just not that it's like super bad or anything, but just like the demeanor and whatever of people there. It's more like city versus Colorado Springs is a little bit more relaxed. I don't know, Craig, how would you like describe the people like between the two?
I guess I don't know Colorado Springs that well, but I think Denver people, I think you get a lot of military people who already understand how to live in a room and all that kind of stuff. So there's like less education around like sharing common spaces than there is in Denver, maybe. And I think Denver people might be a little bit more, I don't know if entitled is the right word, but we'll call it entitled. till we're like they think they should get the world, even though, and we try to give them the world. You give a mouse cheese, and they always want more, kind of thing.
I
Yeah,
think that's it. Yeah, things like that. And it was just like a little bit sassier on the Denver side. If we, said we're starting to do this process, whatever, we get some sass back that I was like not expecting because all my residents in Colorado Springs were like, okay, thanks. And that's it. So we tried doing the self touring, or excuse me, the resident led touring in Denver, and people weren't picking up the tours. We sent it out to the house. No one wanted to pick it up. If someone did, sometimes they weren't even home to let the person in. There was just some of that responsibility type stuff. And some of that is just because of people who were allowed in, like in previous management, maybe the screening criteria and all that was different. So we totally pivoted, and this has been working much better. So now we're doing self guided tours. So we have, now that cameras are in all the houses, and we have access to this app called Forewarn. If you guys don't have it, it's super cool. Forewarn. I think it was created for real estate agents, but normal people can get access to it now for $20 a month. You have to go through an application and get approved, and I don't know, they check you out a little bit. But it allows you to do soft background checks on people just based on their phone number. So having the cameras and being able to do a soft background check before someone visits a house made us comfortable saying, hey, here's your code. Go walk in between this time frame. Your code will only work for this hour. Go in there, check the place out, and call us afterwards, or we'll call you, or however you want to set that up. So that ended up being way better converting because there was a lot of people. This is one other difference. There was a lot of people in Denver who wanted to tour. Whereas in Colorado Springs, it was probably, I think it was like 70% of people would sign a lease without doing a tour. So I had this system that worked pretty well, and it was serving that 30% who needed to tour. But the other 70%, great, they were just moving in. In Denver, it was like definitely the opposite. A lot of people wanted to tour, and pretty almost every single person wanted to tour. So that became a much more important part of the system that I guess I hadn't beefed up, basically. And it took going to Denver, where the demographics and the percentage of people were different, to prompt us to beef that up.
cool. So that's probably the biggest part of the conversion is, I think for us, is like you want to be able to make sure that when they're touring, the house looks good. So that's, again, goes back to why we did the first thing first, is like the house has got to be clean, and we let them tour same day. So it's like, it kind of keeps us on our toes to like very much incentivize all the residents to make sure that this house stays clean and orderly throughout the whole time. And then they can see the house in the flesh, and then they're able to hopefully make a decision on whether they would like to move in or not. Cool. So I think that's most of the conversion piece. Of course, if they like it, you send them a lease, they sign it. That's all digital. I think that's. I don't think we need to go into too much detail there, though we may on a future episode. This is more the 50,000-foot view. And the third piece of getting occupancy up is also making sure that we're not getting people in and they're coming up, basically plugging the holes in the bucket. So everything we did to set it up, I think definitely helped on the retention side. But what else are we doing, Miller?
Yeah, so I think this is the piece of the puzzle that we have not comprehensively attacked yet. So now that we did fix getting enough people in, great. We don't want those people to slide right back out as soon as their lease is done or early or anything like that. So some things that we either have done or are doing, we have done events, like community events at the house. And so that's something that the previous management didn't do, and something that we added that did increase, well, it at least qualitatively increased the resident experience. We haven't had anybody long enough to totally see, but it helped in Colorado Springs. I'm sure it definitely helped here. So doing our community events, like I said, our pizza nights, our bowling nights, that kind of thing. We turned that on, rocking those in the houses, and that kind of leads to a better cohesion in the house, a better culture in the house, because it makes people come together, actually meet each other. They're not hiding in their rooms anymore. So yes, it looks like it's good coming from management, and that kind of helps with retention. But really the big lever here is it helps the people in the house get along better and start to become friends, and then they stay longer. So
Yep. And there's that element too. And then there's also the element of, and we haven't really fleshed this out yet, but I just kind of thought of it as like, at those events, we should ask people, hey, everybody gets a +1. And so now everybody bring your friend. Now the friend gets a little taste for how we run our co-living community. And now they want to maybe move into a house that we manage. And then there's a referral that's set up, layup right there, super high converting, like very low cost of acquisition type customer.
yeah,
So,
and that doesn't take any scale. You can do that with one house. Maybe you live there, maybe you don't. 100%.
yep.
You can do those community events at your house and ask for those referrals and ask them to bring guests.
Yep.
Cool.
What else is there?
All right. Otherwise, some things that we just implemented, more human touch points. So we're kind of rolling back a little bit. I think in the early days of us partnering, we had to bootstrap the heck out of everything, low budgets, not a lot of employees, like that kind of stuff. So we did, and just because I like it, we did a lot of AI, right? A lot of AI texting, a lot of AI emailing, a lot of drip campaigns, even if it's not AI, just like pre-prescribed messages. Hey, how was your move in? Hey, thanks for moving in, whatever. Just we had all that stuff set up. But now that we want to have better retention, and now that we've improved things to where we do have some more breathing room and we do have some budgets that we can throw around, we have hired someone new to take care of like human type touch points. So tactically, what that looks like is we have these drip campaigns. They're sending emails or sending texts. Now there's also like phone call steps in there. So it's, hey, boom, we get to this step 2 days in. This guy who wanted to tour, he said, I want to tour. We sent him his options. He didn't pick anything. All right, we sent him a text. Nothing. Great. Let's get on the phone now. So we're adding that in. So that goes back to the conversion piece. But on the retention piece, this same person is calling them on move-in day, make sure they know how to get into the room when they get there. They know how to get into the house when they get there. They know, like in the house, like where's their room at, stuff like that. After they're moving, hey, how'd it go? Did you meet anyone? Oh, there was this issue. Well, great. What if we took care of it like right now? The handyman will be over there in 30 minutes. All of those things up front definitely lead to them having a good view of our management company in their mind. Plus, like Craig always brings up, it's a great time to ask for a referral.
Yeah. So first impressions mean a lot. And so we're really trying to make the move in a wonderful experience for the residents to come through. And like Miller said, we hired someone to ask them, remind them, hey, you're moving in tomorrow. What do you need? What do you help with? You got the code, you got the Wi-Fi, you got everything you need so you can get in real quick. Great. Then the day of move in, we might have them call again. We will have them call again. Hey, how did the move in go? How's everything in the room? Is everything good, clean? Anything you notice that you need help? And then rather than have them come in with a blind that's loose that we never noticed, they can tell us. And whether we get the handyman out right now in 30 minutes, or we're just like, hey, we'll get the we'll put it on the handyman's list. Next time it comes around, we'll make sure that he gets to it. I don't think it needs to be right away unless it is an emergency, but just as long as they feel heard and taken care of. The other thing that we've quite literally just put together is a welcome basket. And we spend about $50 on a welcome basket. And so when they move in to the room, they're going to see they're waiting for them. It's a shower caddy, which is also a useful thing to take to the bathroom. It's a shared bathroom. And so the shower caddy is branded Home Crew. There's a water bottle, and they're like a big tumbler water bottle that's useful. Could be a day's worth of water probably that they can use. A t-shirt that they're going to have, like a high quality protein bar that in case they're hungry for moving, they can have something to tie them over. And then a couple of different notes and stuff like a welcome note, and then a couple of different flyers about information on the house and all that kind of stuff. And so when we have our person call, they're going to call and ask them if they got the welcome basket. Oh, by the way, if you're hungry, you've got that bar in there. Oh, there's like a power bank. Oh, hey, if you never need any extra outlets, just plug this puppy into the wall. Boom, you've got your extra outlets. Everything was pretty thoughtfully and carefully put together so that it actually does have use for them. And in the letter, it will share that. And so they're going to see and feel how much we actually care about them. They're going to feel really good. And that way, when they're feeling really good, our person is going to be there to call them, make sure they got it, make sure anything's wrong, and then say, oh, hey, by the way, we do offer a referral service where if you bring anybody to us and they move in, we give you $200 off your next rent check. So while they're already feeling great, we're going to give one more time. Going to give them $200 in exchange for a friend of theirs to move in. And so that's also how we're trying to drum up more and more of the referral game.
Yep. Yeah. And even just all these nice things that we do in the beginning, it just makes it to where whenever they interact with the other housemates later that day, like they're already in such a better headspace. It's like not like a rough intro. Oh man, management company is great. They do this for you. Oh yeah, I got my shower thing, whatever. And now everyone is again doing like a better icebreaker than if someone had a terrible moving experience. Now they're walking around all mad. This just helps the culture piece too. Oh, plus Craig didn't say, I don't think, but the shower caddy, the t-shirt, like a lot of those items are branded with our management company too, which just further helps get the name out as people are walking around town using their stuff.
Yeah, and it's not obnoxiously branded. I think it's pretty tasteful. It's like just up the side. It's not the t-shirt is just gonna. I think it's just gonna be like a little like thing on the chest, like a small logo on the chest. It's not like Home Crew or anything like that. It's tasteful, so people will wear it, but hopefully people might just be like, "Oh, what is that?"
And
So
even then, just if someone's wearing it, they might think to bring up to somebody, like they're talking to their friend, oh, whatever, my rent is too expensive. And they're like, oh, shoot, I forgot I was wearing this. Guess what? I live in this really cool place that's super cheap and super awesome. So,
yeah, that is exactly how the conversation will go. You can tell Miller talks to computers a lot. Just kidding. That's pretty much the real deal of how everything went. There's not much, I feel like. I don't want to say we left no stone unturned because we probably did. I just can't think of any.
I'll say it, Craig. We left a lot of stones unturned. I don't think you know about some of these stones, but
That's probably true. There's a lot of stones that I don't know.
yeah, but
Yeah.
these were definitely the highlights and some of the most like pivotal things that we did to increase 40% our occupancy by 40% over 3 or 4 months.
Yep, and we'll occasionally sprinkle in some of these solo episodes where we do really get down to the brass tacks of things, and I'm sure we'll reference the transition and we'll reference how we got to the certain thing, and then we'll really get tactical. Miller likes to get tactical, so we'll do that for him.
Thank you.
And I guess like the last thing in is Miller is like, how do we not go back to where we were?
Yeah, I think this is super important. The best co-living management companies I know out there, like you guys know, we had Justin, or Craig, say his last name.
LeCouillier.
All right,
I've
we
been
had Justin
practicing.
on. There we go. Yeah, we had him on a couple weeks ago, and he is one of the better management companies that I know about. And they do something like this too. I think you have to set up some sort of trigger for, hey, this is whenever I'm going to buy another house or manage another house or whatever. And here's whenever I'm not going to. So if you read the book, I lay out like a few different metrics that you could use. But really the main thing is occupancy, right? And Craig and I had these conversations whenever we first came together, when we're at 50, 60% occupancy, but people are still approaching Craig, hey, will you take on my house as management? There's like people that we had to say no, just because that doesn't serve the properties that we own the best. It doesn't serve the owners in the portfolio the best, because now we're just spreading those same leads over more and more and more houses. So that's what we've put in place now. We're not buying unless we're at 85% occupancy or higher, and our target is to keep it between 85 and 95%. Because if you are 100% occupied, I know that doesn't sound like an issue, but it really is, because all of a sudden now you have no listings up, you have no traction, no one's coming into your funnel. Even if you had one room go vacant, oh great, you can post one room online. But if you have 5 rooms vacant, 10 rooms vacant, that gives you a lot more opportunities for people to touch your listings and move in. So it sounds like kind of like a catch-22, but really, if you're at 100% slammed, you're kind of hurting your future potential to bring people into rooms that go vacant in the future.
Yep, and it also means your rents are probably too low.
Oh, true. Yes, absolutely. and like Craig, or like I mentioned earlier, we dropped all the rents on those rooms initially. Now that we're back to occupied, those rents, and this is what Co-Living Pro does, it adjusts them back to normal rents once you're more occupied. So now we will grow at a little bit of a slower pace, but we get more rent. So basically we get the same income for less people, or the same income for less headaches, as we adjusted our rents back.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I think that was a pretty good dive into the transition. And if someone did want to take over a portfolio, I think this episode could be re-listened to, and I think you could definitely take some good tactics from it and hopefully learn a little bit from how we did it. But yeah, if you guys are trying to scale out there, and don't scale beyond your capabilities, right? If you only feel comfortable doing the 1 or 2, like do that. But I think once you probably get to 5 or 6, you've kind of achieved somewhat of a scale in your portfolio, and you're probably okay to tag on 3 or 4 more at a time if you can.
Yeah. I mean, like if Craig would have come to me whenever I had 2 properties, I would have been much less equipped to scale. But like Craig said, 5 properties, 7 properties, whatever, we were around that 7 property mark, and I had built it right. So really, as you guys are building your portfolio, it's not just about building for the current houses you have. It's about setting that foundation so that you can buy more later and you don't like die whenever you do it.
Exactly. Awesome, man. Well, do we want a big 3 today?
I think we would just say that this show is the best, that we use Rent, Vine, and Go High Level, and that we'll save our horror stories for another day, because that should be a Halloween episode.
That could be a Halloween episode, and we are crazy enough only a couple months away from Halloween. So,
Oh,
um,
goodness.
yeah.
All right.
Well,
Comment below
is
what
Halloween your
Craig and I
favorite
should
holiday?
wear. What is that?
I feel like Halloween's your favorite holiday.
It is my wife's favorite holiday, so it's a big deal around here.
Okay. It is my wife's least favorite holiday, so we ignore it completely around here.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, we kind of ignore it because no one comes to our house to trick or treat. But like within the house, like we're going crazy, dressing up, eating candy, watching scary movies. It's mainly a scary movie thing. We'll watch scary movies for like 2 weeks straight.
gotcha. What's your favorite scary movie?
Mm. Like I said, it's my wife's favorite holiday. So I didn't say I enjoy all of this. I just participate.
Gotcha. You're a good husband. All right, man. Well, if y'all are listening to this, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. A little bit different than what we usually do, but hey, we like to spice it up a bit. Leave us a rating and review if you found this valuable at all. It tremendously helps us out. Share it on Instagram, share it with your friends. Anyone that you know that's in co-living should be listening to this show. Otherwise, we'll talk soon. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Craig Curelop.
I'm at Miller McSwain, and I just thought about it. Probably The Conjuring, Insidious, and Sinister.
Are those movies?
Yeah, those are like movies. Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay. I thought you were rambling off words to me. I
Insidious,
haven't heard.
Conjuring, and Sinister. You guys got to check those out.
Okay, I haven't heard of any of them. We'll check them out. Cool, man. We'll talk again soon, and we'll talk to everybody else next week. We'll see you.
See you.
Peace.